So we first met about 5 years ago through a friend. A friend was utilizing you for his fitness business and had done so really successfully. So I ended up giving you a call. I was really unsure about going the marketing approach, and now obviously I'm like, can't live without it. I had tried paid ads in the past and had essentially no success at all, and just kind of wrote it off as like, oh, this isn't a thing. It's all, just personal relationships, which, referral is still the number one source. I don't think any business doesn't have that component if they're local, but I went from, a couple people per week, if we had like a really good week, coming in trying classes, even though we were on Main and Main. We were in a very busy intersection in Granite Bay, Roseville area. And you got me set up, and it ended up being really overwhelmingly positive. In terms of what actually got me on board was, I remember our first conversation that we had was over the phone, and then you tried closing me the same way that you would try to close somebody for my business. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, so he's actually going to do that with people. Yeah, I don't want to do that, so let's have him do that instead. And that actually is part of what got me on board, aside from, a friend had utilized you and had really positive results in a similar type of business. And at that time, and looking back at it, to this day, I still don't know of anyone else that wasn't a really big establishment that was utilizing an agency. And now I'm seeing ads all the time from my competitors that are clearly using some kind of an agency. So it was kind of cool to be an early adopter of this whole thing, at least in my community. And I have a sneaking suspicion that kind of pushed some other people towards utilizing agencies. But the idea that I was going to be able to master the marketing component while working 12 hours a day is silly. And in retrospect, I think that would be the first portion of the pitch to another comparable business. Okay, do you have time for this? The answer is no. Don't answer that question. You already know the answer is no. So instead of trying to jerry-rig it yourself, get a professional that knows what they're doing, and then have them do it for you, especially if you're like me, where you're, kind of a weirdo that hyper-fixates on the thing that you're doing. The idea of mastering sales and marketing while you're trying to focus on this thing is just silly. So that was initially how we got started. You started on our phone call. I remember you were kind of pushing me the same way you would push somebody that was trying a jiu-jitsu class, like, hey, want to join? Oh, why not? And it ended up working, man. Right at a very busy time in my life. And that for me was a really good selling point. Okay, if you're able to get me, then you must be doing something right, and I think it'll work on other people. The initial number that we had, I didn't see. That's part of what was really helpful about assigning metrics to this. I'm not a dum-dum. I'm an educated individual. I have a master's degree. I was able to get through school, but I never really, the numbers component here, I knew what my baseline was. I need to have this many members to pay the bills, right? And that was my first brick and mortar location. Overhead was high. $5,000 a month for your first place is scary, because most people don't make that in a month, at least not in 2017. The average income wasn't that in the United States. So it's okay, I have to do that and survive. This is gonna suck. So we had initially started connecting when I'd been doing well. 2019 looked really positive for me. And then 2020 hit, just like it hit everybody else. And then once the recovery started, once things started opening up again, and it was hard to get out there. And to this day, I don't think culturally we've really recovered. Not that that's a bad thing for business, but people are digital creatures now. They live in a digital world. You see that every single day walking around. You could have I can't tell you how many times, and this was something that was really helpful in me understanding the marketing component to this and that digital footprint. I had people that were walking by my establishment every single day, and then I'd see them come in eventually, and I didn't even know this was here. Dude, I've seen you every day here for the last year, going to that, we were next door to a Walmart. So we originally couldn't really maintain at 100, and there were a number of factors at play, people and getting the right audience and connecting with them about, consistency, et cetera, especially something as long-term as martial arts, especially one like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and grappling and any hard combat sport where it takes years to see your work turn into something. Really finding a way to get the messaging right was where you were particularly helpful with us. But it was just kind of not even teeter-tottering, just couldn't quite hit that next level. We were doing really well in 2019. We have this big, worldwide issue. And then we start recovering. Things are going okay. And it's there's got to be a way to reach people, especially after people had spent 6 months on their phones and computers and TVs and not doing anything else. And so we implemented a strategy of this was when you were operating off of like the monthly retainer essentially, and you know, you had to hustle. Like I remember our conversation. I got to hustle. I mean, I got to make it worth it for you. Otherwise, you're going to stop paying that, you know, that bill to me every month. And so you put together a really good strategy involving paid ads, how we were going to, you know, get the messaging right for those ads, get people through the door. And you had a system in place in order to close them. You were really good about, you know, my friend doesn't like this, but hammering those leads and just like, you got to get them in, got to get them on the mat, we got to get them to sign up. And it worked. I mean, we grew to over 150 members. By the end of 2021, after you and I had been working together for a little over a year, I was able to get this project going. Like, so we had made enough improvements in terms of our membership base to make this happen. So we were steadily growing, and the lease was going to be up, and it looked like it was going to be about the same cost. We were able to move out of Main and Main because it's, you know, there are pros and cons to being on Main and Main. One of the cons is you get a lot of people that just want to chat, and never actually come in. So now we're in this beautiful residential zone. We're right in the heart of our demographic where they live. I have kids that walk here with their parents daily. And we were able to build out this beautiful location and literally triple our size in the span of a couple of years. Started with, you know, just not being able to quite hit that post 100 mark, about 100 members. It would go up and down based on the season. And thanks to Golden Goose Marketing, we were able to get above 100, and now we're at 350 plus and growing. And we would not have been able to do it without them. And that's with me being stubborn and still not doing any in-person sales, which we would have probably grown much faster if I had just accepted that was reality and started doing that. Now we do that, and we're getting, you know, like last week, 10 new members.